Welcome to Distance Learning with Common Sense. We have three very special guests today. My name is Vicki Saylor. I'm Arizona Regional Manager for Common Sense Education, and I'm thrilled to have our guests today. I have Dr. Elvira Armas, and I have Mrs. Charlene Freed, and we have Mrs. Mayra Lavadenz. They come to us from the Center for Equity for English Language Learners out at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, California. We're so honored to have them here. Very well-versed and just wonderful teachers and people. So thank you so much for being here. We're going to start with Dr. Armas. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your center.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. It's our pleasure to be here along with this esteemed panel, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Elvira Armas, and I've had the privilege of having a 32-year journey as an educator, starting first and foremost with being a bilingual classroom teacher, an opportunity also to support teachers out of the classroom, to support at both school site and district level, to be a coach, to work at the county level, and to be able to bridge that work to the university in serving pre-service and in-service teachers. Currently, I serve as the Director of Programs and Partnerships at Loyola Marymount University in the Center for Equity for English Learners. We're located in Los Angeles, California, and we were founded in 2006 by our Executive Director, Dr. Mayra Lavadenz. We're committed to engaging with diverse stakeholders all over the state and nation with our sole purpose of being able to respond to the needs and advocate for excellence and equity for English learners. Our vision is to transform systems and schools to be able to affect policy and practice for English learners. And we focus on three areas. We focus on research and evaluation. We focus on professional learning to be able to impact practice, and we also focus on policy. We have many professional learning programs that we offer via distance learning. We've been in the distance learning space since 2008 when it was kind of teleported via different video cameras and television. And we also partner with over 65 organizations, schools, and districts where we've conducted different research and evaluation efforts around areas such as dual language learners in the early childhood space, areas such as college and career readiness for English learners, as well as equity and policy in the school finance and school policy areas. And finally, we create tools and resources that are available to you as open source resources on our center.
Thank you so much. I did see all of your resources, and as a former English language development teacher, it is a great place to look for all of our needs right now, especially for distance learning. You did create something called Equitable Distance Learning for English Learners Design Principles. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why it's important to implement that when creating our lessons for our learners?
Yes, Vicki. So during this unprecedented time, our focus continues to be on promoting equity, and we know that that can only come first and foremost by honoring diversity. And it's our charge and really our moral obligation to act on that diversity. To be able to do that, we need to differentiate resources, we need to differentiate instruction, and we need to also work collaboratively with other educators. We did develop the design principles for equitable distance learning for English learners. They encompass what we know in real life spaces about practices for English learners that are research-based. We know now more than we ever have. We have national studies such as the NASEM report. We have much movement in all of our states to be responsive and act on these historic times to be able to serve English learners. And during this time of distance learning, it's even more important to serve our underserved communities as they are the most at risk with all of the inequities that were faced before this pandemic and are heightened during the pandemic. The equitable distance learning principles give us an opportunity to be able to engage in identifying explicit goals and outcomes. You can find them on our website, and I know they'll be available at the end of this session. We also center the work on the idea of what we know from the research, that first we need to attend to connections, to students' social and emotional learning, and we need to find ways, both low-tech and high-tech, to engage our English learners in learning. We need to also not forget what we know in real life about promoting oral language development at the heart of language and literacy learning for English learners. And with that comes varied participation structures, which are absolutely possible. And you'll hear from our two very talented teachers in the virtual space. Absolutely possible to have low-tech and high-tech varied participation structures, as well as a key aspect of differentiated reflection and assessment. We invite you to visit our website where you'll hear narratives from our teachers. They're accomplished teachers of English learners. We also have narratives from parents, parent leaders, and coming soon, we'll have narratives from leaders all over the state.
Thank you so much. You did highlight those 5 principles, and I think Barbara is putting them in the chat. We also will record this session, so if you missed any part of it, it will be available on our YouTube channel, our Common Sense Education YouTube channel. But Dr. Elvira Armas has shared those principles with us both in English and in Spanish, which is remarkable. And thank you so much for that recap of that. And we will turn it over now to Mrs. Mayra Lavadenz, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and the students she serves, as well as some of the strategies that she implements surrounding these design principles. So welcome, Mayra.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited about it. Yeah, my name is Mayra Lavadenz, and I've been teaching 19 years now in the Montebello Unified School District. I've always thought that my strength as a teacher and my power is love, and the connections with our students is my #1 focus all the time. So I'm a yoga instructor, and I do mindfulness, and so I do all of that, and trying to seamlessly bring that into the Teach Summer School. I volunteer against some people's advice, and I just did it because I said I wanted to jump in, I want to get better, and I want to really do things a lot better than we did the first time around when we really didn't know what we were doing. And so one of the first things that I did, each parent and each family for class, got to know them, talk to them, see how they're doing, see what device needs, see if they have connections, just really get to know them and show them my expectation of how I wanted to do class and to make sure they get a good night's sleep and all that.
So Mayra,
and another thing that I did was I incorporated a feedback.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me?
A little bit. You're breaking up a little. We're really sorry, but I just want to, when we spoke earlier this week, you talked about the show and tell feature that you have for your kids and how you give them sentence frames that helps them with their English language development. And I think we're sharing those with our viewers today. So that's a really great motivator for kids, as well as you were mentioning something about the growth mindset. So you talk about how important it is to not only encourage a growth mindset, but also to model that. So, you know, we're going to go over to Charlene right now, and then I'll check back with you. That way we don't run out of time. Okay? Is that okay? Yes? Okay, so we're gonna head over to Charlene, and we're gonna talk to Charlene. She is a very, very well-known teacher. She is CABE and NABE Teacher of the Year. And she also recently received the Corazon Award from CABE. So that just speaks a little bit about how remarkable this lady is. So Charlene, why don't you tell us about the students you serve and some of the strategies that you use with them?
So it was 2 o'clock on March 13th, and we received a notice over the loudspeaker that we would not be returning to school on Monday. We didn't get to say goodbye to our kids. We were told they couldn't come back after school. They didn't take their books with them. We didn't get to take our books with us. I actually stole my laptop from my desktop in a minute because I knew I needed some of my things. Then it took us 2 more weeks to be able to figure out how to go online. And In the meantime, my kids had been emailing me. They were frightened. Where are you? What are we doing? Where are my parents? My parents have lost their jobs. What are we doing? My aunt and uncle and their kids just moved in with us. What are we doing? So I decided, okay, we don't have a book, but I don't want my kids to get behind. So the first activity I made up that I'd like to share with all of you is I asked them to take a picture of themselves. And then I asked them to take 10 body parts and have those body parts talk about how they felt about the coronavirus, because I thought it would be in the third person, you know, my heart feels, my eyes don't understand why there's no food on the shelves, my mind doesn't understand why my parents aren't working right now and why we're struggling for food. So I thought it would be easier to talk from their body parts and themselves. And at the end, they had to create a composite quote. And then my more advanced students took that quote and used it as a thesis for an essay. The newcomers, because I teach newcomers to advanced, the newcomers were able to write their essays in their own languages. And then we got on the big screen, and my goal was, how are we going to break down that glass and make those kids feel comfortable? How are those kids going to show themselves when maybe there are 5 kids and they're on 5 computers, all in high school, trying to do this at once? So we shared our human drawings. Then we took a flip grid and they acted out how their body parts felt, and we shared those. They didn't all do that, but enough of them did. And then after that, I said to myself, okay, what are we gonna do now? So I said, okay, you're gonna create a superhero, and this superhero is gonna come and save us from this invasion of the coronavirus. And this is where diversity came in, because I teach in a predominantly Catholic school. So some of the kids made their superhero God. Some of the kids made the superhero their own versions of God. Some of the kids, like a lot of the LTLs, so long-term English learners, did rappers. And so they created a superhero that was gonna come down. I had them do so many verbs for the action this superhero would take, so many adjectives to describe the superhero, and then they had to write a little story. So now this time, we met on the big screen, and then we went into the chat rooms, and what they had to do was they had to explain who their superhero was, what their superhero could do, but we did it for like an EL activity. So like if Victoria is gonna tell me her story about the superhero, I'm gonna tell her mine. Well, Elvira and Mayra are doing the same thing. Then all the stories are out. Then Victoria tells our little group of 4 my story. So now we've done our superhero, we've written, we've shared, we've comprehended, but the retelling part where you tell the other person's story involves higher level English acquisition, right? So then after that, like our little group of 4, they had to choose one winner. And then they had to choose 3 reasons why that winner, why that superhero could save us from this invasion. And then they had to create an organization, a prize, an MC, and then the person would, back in the large group, share the superhero with the rest of the group. And if they couldn't do it in the large group, they could choose a designated recipient, just like they do in the Real Academy Awards. So then we went back to the big screen like this and say that I'm the MC. So I say, welcome all 5,000 of you. Thank you so much for coming for the Future Teachers of America organization. We have a winner today whose superhero will save us. I like Trump, sorry. Who superhero who will save us, who will find ways for all of us to identify with her. And our winner is Victoria. And then Victoria comes up and says, oh, thank you so much. She creates, again, visualizes the situation, thanks her mother, grandmother, says thank you, gives her speech, and we go through all of that. So that's how we bonded with each other. We used the big screen, we broke through the barrier so we could still see little fingers and little noses and all the cute things about the kids that make us bond in class. We just couldn't physically touch. Then they went off, created the stories, came back. And this was the diversity part, because they all came with their own backgrounds talking about their superheroes. And then the flip grid, they acted out the role of the superhero. And that's what we did. Can I say one more thing really fast?
Yeah, so much learning going on. It's amazing. Like it
so
just
one
goes
more
into
thing.
one
So
different.
I also sent
Awesome.
10th grade English for English learners, but I worked with all the other teachers. So we had to read Things Fall Apart, which is a story of Nigeria. This was very hard. All the teachers said it's too hard. We're not in class. We can't talk to each other. They had all these questions and answers. They had an essay. They said the kids aren't doing it. I said, let's try the human drawing that I did. Just have them take one of the characters and be like Okanyakwa or be like one of the missionaries and act it out. So they did it, and they said, I mean, this was a different kind of success. And we did the same things. So when the school starts in the fall, we're going to bring back the human drawings and revisit. Okay, now how does your heart feel? How do your hands feel? How do your knees feel? I'm not going to bend to this oppressor of this coronavirus. And then we're going to recreate the superheroes with what we've learned now through all these 6 months of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I just appreciate how much, attention you give to that social emotional learning. It's so important. We know that this virus is affecting our Latinx community disproportionately. So this is so important right now to bring those human connections, in your classroom. Somebody asked what grade level you're a high school teacher, is that correct? And you also teach at the college
9
level.
through 12, because ELD is 9 through 12.
Right. So, wow, such wonderful information. We do have the slides. So they created a wonderful set of slides for you all. So make sure that you take a look at that. Also, the resources, the links that are available for you are also on those takeaway slides. Let's check back with, thank you so much, Charlene. I mean, I could talk to you for hours and hours, and I learn so much every time we speak. So thank you so much. And you are joining us from Mexico. So thank you very much for being here. Let's check back with Mayra and see if she can share a little bit about, let's see if that works.
All right, so what I found out through that exit ticket and doing with my students, I found out what they wanted to include in their lessons. So to try to engage them more into our daily activities. So many students said they really enjoyed the time where we just talk in the beginning, get to know each other, and students asked if we could do a show and tell. So I took that opportunity to create some sentence frames and have everybody sign up to either be a presenter or an interviewer, because some kids said they were shy to do presentations. And that was really fun and really exciting for the kids, and they really loved it. And another thing that I noticed was the need for a growth mindset. And so growth mindset is something I've been, very into for a while. And I did cite the ucubed.org organization, because their research has not only changed my teaching, but it's changing me as a person to understand that as we learn, we make mistakes, and those mistakes actually make us grow faster, right? So taking our students' mistake as an asset instead of as a feeling of, I didn't do a great job teaching and whatnot, because they're learning so much technology at such a rapid rate. I had some students crying in the beginning, and so I thought, oh, you know what? I need to go back, and I really need to take some time and teach growth mindset, but not only teach it, just be growth mindset. And encourage those mistakes, and have students, another activity we did is we created a poster with all the positive attributes about themselves, because I found through my exit ticket as well that students were maybe they didn't understand the question, or maybe they weren't able to articulate, but we weren't able to tell me great things about themselves. So by the end of this, they were creating these beautiful posters on Jamboard with their face and all the great things about them.
Yeah, I find that, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but I was raised the same way. Like, it's not okay to brag about yourself or to kind of lift yourself up. So I think that's really great that you're empowering your students and your families to do that. What you also mentioned about digital home visits, I don't know if you have time. I think we have maybe one more minute. And if you want to talk about how you do your digital home visits, how you bring those families in.
So prior to starting, I really wanted to establish a connection, even with my students from summer school, and just really get to know their families, what's going on at home, who has a device, who needs a device, what type of expectations I had as a teacher, and if they're able to meet those expectations, to give them a quiet space and to brainstorm about quiet spaces, to tell them, to blame it on me, because I blame it on, with my own kids at work. I say, well, your teacher said you have to do it, so blame it on me that you have to go to bed early and that you have to get up an hour before class. Blame it on teacher. Teacher said that that's part of it. And they were laughing with me, but it worked, and I had such a high attendance and so much. I was so impressed by the parent engagement, and just because, I don't know if it was because I made those connections with them, I never met these people in real life. None of them knew who I was, and I didn't know who any of they were. And I had a higher rate of connection and engagement than I did with my class that I had before. So I think that I'm going to continue that. I'm going to do some Zoom. I'm going to actually do more of virtual meetings with each parent and really just see what they need, see where they're at, see how I can help them, and see how we can really make it a success.
Well, yeah, thank you. And I think you hit it right on the head, right? It's so important to bring those parents in, especially now for distance learning. We're counting on them to be even more of a partner in their child's education. I think our Latinx community especially has always kind of given the reins to the teacher. And now this is a really exciting time because we can bring them in as true partners. And I think that is also elevating and empowering our families. So thank you so much for sharing. Before we wrap up, because we need to wrap up and hopefully we'll have time for some Q&A, are there any last words of advice or one key takeaway that you would like to share with us today? Let's start with Dr. Armas, and then we'll go around to Charlene and then Mayra.
Thank you. I just want to say that you can see collectively we can innovate in the name of our students, and particularly those that are most at risk. And we can see also how these talented educators, as well as others whose narratives you can find on our website, do find a way to heighten the family engagement and to co-construct with families. And it's through that co-construction, along with the collaboration with colleagues, that we can impact as many students as possible. And what neither of these two teachers said is that they called and texted and found ways to empower parents to feel that they truly are the other partner on the other side. And they did that by uplifting the assets, the gifts that our families and students bring. So thank you.
I love that. I love that. Charlene, what can you add, please?
I'm going to talk really fast because I would like to say,
okay.
So my son gave me this idea. I had my students create a My Family book because a lot of my kids said they never talked to their parents. Their parents were never home. Now they're all home together. So they had to make one chapter, mi papi, mi mami, mi abuela, mi mascota. And they created this family book. And then we came on the screen. So like if I did that, my daughter is you, Victoria, then I brought you, I'm sorry, I'm a little kid. Anyway, I bring you with me, I share my chapter, and then we also did this for the Flipgrid. So that the parents had to be involved. They were right there on the screen with us. I don't want to say two more things really fast. Five of my kids went back to Mexico. And when you look at the slides, one of the kids went to a really rural area. It took me 2 weeks to find him by phone. When I finally found him, he said, I had to go back and take care of my mother. Because if nobody took care of my mother, who cares about the coronavirus? There would be nobody to feed her. So anyway, but these 5 kids were able to graduate because we pushed and the teachers all gave them the opportunity to graduate. They're still in Mexico right now. Okay, last words. My goal, my motto is we need to teach our students to create rather than consume and to invent rather than mimic. Worksheets don't work. Fill in the blanks don't work. Copy, 5 million points don't work. But these types of oral activities do work. And if anybody wants more information about the activities I showed you, you can email me. I'll give you my high school one, cefreed704@baldwinppusd.net, because I have these strategies all written out if you are interested. And I'm excited to start the fall in this way with the students.
Thank you, Charlene. I agree. It's an exciting time. It's stressful, but it's an exciting time for change and to just really reinvent ourselves. I think you guys are all doing amazing. Those teachers out there, thank you so much for all of your hard work as well. Okay, 30 seconds. Mayra, any last words?
I'm going to piggyback what Charlene said, and I think that one of the most thing that I've she said to create, to not just copy. And I think that right now is a time really a new one for school. We cannot go back to the status quo. We cannot go back to standardized testing, and we have the power now. People are recognizing, I'm hoping, how valuable teachers are. And so I want to be the first to say I want to start a movement that we end this system that's been encroached on us since No Child Left Behind of testing. I don't know one person who loves testing. So I think that this is the time for us to really reflect as teachers and see how we can gather together, and we are not going to go back to the status quo. We know our students deserve more than this.
And I agree. I totally agree. And your point on standardized testing, our students are at such a disadvantage. And I hear what you're saying, and I completely agree with you. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Again, this will be on our YouTube channel, and we will also have the slides on there as well, and as well as their contact information if you missed it in the chat. So I don't know if we have maybe 1 minute or not, but maybe we're going to stop recording, and maybe we can hang out for a little bit afterwards and see if we can answer any of your questions. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, ladies. We were so honored to have you here today. Thank you.